it is. And just chill. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, alright. I don't know. I think that if our audience, I think Tony, you should be your entire audience, and I think you should stand up there and ask questions. Off the top of your head.
It's on.
It's very not experience talking about how
Yeah.
right? So see the nice things we can interview each other. Yeah, it works.
You have a physics lecture?
Yeah, this is
Architecture 101.
you also have one of the little characters. And Serena just like makes those from scratch. She is?
Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah, what's your plus? Oh.
Oh.
Slick. I know, I kind of like that. I was like,
Real dark all of a sudden.
yeah. Any answers? All right. We're good? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you for coming to our Titan Gaming Voice Actor panel this afternoon. I'm Riley,
And I'm Philip.
and we'll be your moderators for today. We have two amazing voice actors here, and we'll be going over their experience voicing many different characters, as well as their overall careers. We'll open the floor for an audience Q&A later on, so if you have specific questions about like voice acting in general, like please wait until the end for that. We will have time to ask. Yeah, great.
Well, let's get right into it, shall we? Panelists, please introduce yourself by saying your name, how long you've been a voice actor, and maybe some characters that you might recognize before.
Hello everyone, my name is Angelique Panini. I have been acting for like 3 or 4 years, something like that. I think lines are better than that, I voice characters like Yuki from Jujutsu Kaisen. I voice Roy in Pokemon. I voice Lennon in Mashal, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also on IMDb, so you should check that. Yeah, so glad that you guys came up to, hear us speak a little bit.
Hi everyone, I'm Retna. I've been voice acting for quite a while now. I think it's almost 12 years. And you might have heard me on a series on Netflix called Tresse, where I voice a couple of young twins who swear at each other, and a number of other characters. And also some games that you may or may not have heard of that are all over IMDb that I would love to be able to talk about, but I can't right now. But I'm so happy to be here, and I love seeing you all out there. Hi!
All right. Thank you two for introducing yourselves. All right, we're going to start with our questions. For me, as a theater kid myself, I grew up doing theater. Is there a pivotal moment that you two can remember that you decided, like, acting is what I need to do with my life? Like, this is my passion.
Ooh, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories if you don't mind. So I also
Perfect.
love theater. I love theater. I did theater all through high school. I really wanted to go to New York and be on Broadway. And when I told my mom that maybe I didn't want to go to college, I wanted to go to New York, I got the Asian immigrant response of over my dead body and yours. And so I did go to university and I studied business and advertising and had an actual grown-up corporate career for a little while. And then towards the end of my time working in corporate, I found out my entire department was getting laid off. We were getting cut. And I thought, well, I could get another corporate job. That's the thing I know how to do. Or I could do this thing that's been in the back of my head for a really, really long time, and I could do that. And if I don't do this now, I will never, ever do it. And so I did. And I took a leap of faith and I started acting.
I love that story. I have a similar-ish story. I didn't grow up acting at all because I was also very much on the Asian parent mindset of your entire goal in life is to get into college, and once you're in college, your entire goal in life is to get a well-paying job and,
That your parents can boast about you.
The immigrant American dream, yeah. And so I went to college thinking I was going to go to law school eventually and have this whole different life. And just as a hobby, I started doing player dramas and podcasts just for fun, nothing serious. But actually, pandemic happened while I was in college, and during that time, I was like, hey, every acting teacher in the world is online right now. Why don't I just take a class for fun? And then that one class turned into a whole bunch of different classes, and I quickly spiraled into other stuff. I fell in love with it, and I think anyone who's an actor or any type of artist will, agree with this. We're so lucky to find our passions, and I think that's such a rare thing. Most people never do, and so I was like, I found something I truly, truly love. I'm about to graduate in like, 6, 7 months. Maybe I plan to try this. Maybe I give myself a shot because I'm never going to do it otherwise. And so I decided I was going to give myself a year to go work. It worked. If it didn't, I'd go to law school. And it worked. So, yay.
Wow, I think it's really cool that both of you almost went into voice acting like slightly later in life than like people would expect. I mean, for me, growing up in like social theater heavy and like wanting to be an actor for a bit, I feel very like I have to start when I'm in high school, like right out of college. But I actually think it's really inspiring. So like, I'm taking that part. I'm like, maybe one day I'll get back into it too.
There's no wrong time to start anything. You can be, 20, you can be 40, you can be 60. Like, Oprah didn't get famous until she was in her 40s.
Bryan Cranston, I don't think started acting until he was in his 40s.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Alright, well, we've sort of back and forth in stories now, but stories obviously have highs and low points. Do you have the most memorable moment in your voice acting career so far?
That's a good question. I always say, like, my favorite job is the next one. I freaking love my job. I feel I'm like happier than a pig in mud getting to do what I do. And so anytime I get to go in the booth, whether it's virtual or in person, and get to work with really talented people who happen to be my friends, that just makes me the happiest that I've ever been. And that's those are always my high points is, getting that call or getting that email that says, hey, you booked this thing. Like, hey, I'm working today. I love that. I think low points, gosh, anybody who chooses a creative life or an entrepreneurial life, don't be fooled into thinking it's a straight line. It is a roller coaster. And it comes with highs and it comes with lows. And our job is to stay really present with what's happening right there in that moment and figure out the next best way to solve whatever problem we're facing. And so that way, we can handle the lows. We cry a little bit, we wipe our faces off, and then we go do our thing. And then we can also handle the highs, and that means, we can get the, job call and go to the next room and go, woohoo, I can't tell you about this for 3 years. And then, go about our day.
I couldn't imagine trying to keep like a secret for 3 years.
The key is to forget about it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Selective amnesia.
And you never think of it. You're like, oh, I just get to go to, I'm like, I recorded this 6 months ago. It is on for my mind. They announced it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Like, I just unlocked this memory. It's crazy.
The number of times my friends have texted me about a thing that I forgot about.
But I love that, and I completely agree. I feel like every single day you have new highs and new lows. Like, it is a constantly, every day looks so different in this career that it's, yeah. I will say, for me personally, the one thing I remember when I was starting voice acting, like I have so many dreams and goals. And usually, as an actor, they tell you don't have your heart set on anything, which is smart advice. You still do because you're human. So there are still going to be things where you're like, I grew up with this, I love this. If I could have anything to do with X, Y, Z, it would make my entire life. And for me, that was Pokemon. And so when I got to be a part of Pokemon, I was like, this is really cool. And I got to play a smaller role in the previous season before Ash left. And I was like, hey, I don't need anything else. And then I got even on here, and I was very, very fortunate, and that was a high up high. But the lows, yeah, it's, there's no guarantees. You can't expect anything. Even when you get something, you might not have it forever. It's all in the air, so.
For this next question, I think my question was if you could voice any character in any media, who would it be and why? But I think I'm also going to ask if there's a character archetype that you wish you could play that you might have not yet. If that's easier than character, because I think that's a hard question.
Dear Disney, are you listening? I would still like to be a Disney princess.
I love that. I'm a big comic book nerd, so like some kind of superhero.
Yes.
Would definitely, or like a detective. might be like a cool arc. I've never played anything like that. That would be very fun.
Ooh, those are fun. I'd love to be a Disney princess too.
Right?
Well, sort of going to archetypes. We play lots of different roles, lots of different kinds of characters. Is there anything new, special to get into those kinds of mindsets?
I would say I so often don't know what I'm about to play when I'm walking into a session that it is tough. But usually I think for me, if I do know that I'm going to be playing this character, it's mainly like vocal warm-ups, more so than like doing anything specific to get into the character. Because usually you have your director there, you have like a great script. For me at least, I don't have to do too much beforehand. But if I'm going to voice, I don't really have the character, or I'm going to voice someone who really don't be, or like, you know, anything that's streaming, probably.
Yeah, I think, gosh, in terms of getting into the mindset of a character, it's more about emptying your mind of any expectations before you get into the movie, because we don't know what we're going to get when we go in there. We don't know who they are, what they're going to sound like, even the characters that you know us for. We didn't know what they sounded like until our first day in the booth. Like, we might have auditioned with one thing, but after we got to know them and started working with the writers and directors and the people who were adapting the scripts, they became something completely different. And so the first thing is just to go in with an open and empty mind. And then when they come back and we're lucky enough to do them ongoing, then it's just, okay, remind me, like, where were they in their story arc? What's going on right now? Okay, got it, let's go. But it's really just that willingness to play.
There's also, sometimes you are playing an ongoing character and then they decide to do something very different with the story. We're going to have a really dark, dramatic storyline, or we're going to have this really fun event for this character that's usually pretty dark and dramatic. You know, you can have total, you can have surprises regardless, and so yeah, you know, absolutely.
Or you can think you're going in to do one thing, and then they're like, hey, we have this new character for you, can we workshop that? Okay.
That's like, honestly, actually, like what my next question is going to be is, I was curious about how much freedom you guys have in characterization in terms of your characters. Like, do you notice sometimes, like, on average, do you stick very similarly to what you auditioned with, or do you notice mostly like big changes once you also get into the booth and have the director there?
Really depends.
It depends.
Project to project, it's so different. Character to character is different, even maybe within the same project. It really depends. But it's always a cool process.
Yeah, right? Some creators, they have a very specific thing in their head. Like, I want them to sound like, you know, Storm from X-Men and Barbie. Like, and you cannot deviate from that. And if you're not quite right on there, like, I'm on the other side of the glass, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired because I'm not quite there. But yeah, otherwise, it's a playtime. It's a workshopping back and forth. And like I said before, you may or may not be anywhere near the audition that you turned in.
Do you always have like your scripts in front of you too? Is never like a memorization thing voice acting?
Luckily, usually not.
Okay.
You might have to improv, but then there is no script, and so you get to do whatever you want. But usually, I never really had to improvise. If you do something like motion capture or you're in specific settings.
I was just going to say that. I did a gig that I did facial capture for, and we did have to memorize not just the script, but I was basically face dubbing a personality. So I had to do their face, their script, but also like where the breath was, how their, what their tonality was, so that we could capture what that person was saying as true as possibly to what they had actually done when they recorded it.
Wow. Cool.
Alright, well, you've gotten the character, you've gotten your script. Do you remember any lines in particular that you liked saying after you've gotten everything you needed?
I always like a good catchphrase. I have a character in Jujutsu Kaisen who has a great catchphrase. I don't know if anyone's watched the show, but her thing is, asking people what type of woman do you like. So that's always a good one.
Love that. Gosh, for me, it's sometimes I love the opportunity to just sort of improvise because sometimes we're working with a script and it will make me think of something. And so I just did something recently. It was a game that signed an interim agreement. And so there was some part of the character, and they had everything scripted, and I was like, can I just do this as if she was like she stubbed her toe and it really hurt, or whatever. And then we did it, and it was really fun to do. I love a catchphrase. That's super fun. I did one character that I did. I'm not going to say it here, but I played twins, and I basically got to swear at myself.
That's pretty fun. Do you two like the improvising aspect of it? Or do you find it nerve-wracking? Because for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not, but I'm curious to hear from you.
No, I love it.
It's a lot of fun because you're all on the same team, so even if you improv something that turns into not be good,
They just won't do it.
right? It's not a big deal, and so it's just room to play and do whatever and have fun with the character, and so that's always fun.
Yeah. How many of you taken improv classes? Hands up. Really high? Yay. Okay, good. Yeah. I took a ton of improv classes. And I love improv, and so the opportunity to improv when we get in the booth is just like, woo, I get to play! And if you've ever heard of Walla or like ADR, Walla is background noise. So all of those little characters in the back of the main action, and they're all speaking to each other, that's Walla. That's all improv. And so it's a great, it's a great chance to just use those skills. But for those of you who are taking improv or are curious about it, I always recommend it as a great class because even if you don't become an actor, you will always use your improv skills. Brainstorming is improv. Learning how to speak extemporaneously in front of your coworkers, that's improv. And all of those things, it will always serve you.
Awesome. Cool. If you two had to live in the same setting or universe as one of your characters, who would you pick and why?
I'm in a show called Mashal. Even though there might be similarities to other properties, but in essence, they go to a magic school.
Oh,
and I want to go to magic school. And I want to run number 6. So,
I go to that school too.
I want to cheat. Everyone wants to do that.
Gosh. I don't know. There are so many cool universes that we've gotten to inhabit as part of, the work that I've done. I think one of my favorite, spaces that I've seen rhymes with Schmerich Schmock from a game that we all know.
When you said magic school, that really resonated with me. I think when I was in 11, 12 years old, I was really convinced I was going to go to Henry Potter
Are
school.
you waiting for your letter?
I was waiting for the letter, yeah. It never came, but maybe one day, guys.
Do you have a particular type of magic you would want to go use?
Okay, not limiting myself to what's in that show. Oh gosh. Well, I spent way too many years as a child obsessed with Avatar and wanting elemental powers.
Ooh.
And I was like, I'm a waterbender, obviously, so probably water magic.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, me? God. I
It doesn't
think,
have to be elemental.
well, I do love Avatar. I just don't think I'm coordinated enough to be any of them. So I'm going to say that I will do, even though I tested into Gryffindor, I want to do Slytherin magic. Is that allowed?
Do you want to talk to snakes?
I do.
That's pretty cool.
Sort of in the same vein, you talk about Mashal. Have you been introduced to any series in your work in years?
So many.
Yeah.
My entire Netflix queue is just full of things that...
Gosh, I'm trying to think of anything specific.
I mean,
So many.
honestly, I probably would have watched it anyway, but anything that my friends are in, so Little Witch Academia and Pokemon New Horizons and so many different anime series. Every time somebody announces they're in something, I'm like, okay, watching that. Okay, watching that. And then I think there's another one. that J.O. Oliva just did on Netflix too. It's like Thunder Gods or something like that. It's Norse mythology, kind of darker animation, and I'm like, yep, gonna be watching that too. So.
I think the character that's coming to mind that like introduced me to a whole world I wasn't familiar with was Heaven Official's Blessing. 'Cause I hadn't heard of it before I was in it, but then I was like, this is so cool, you guys. And I just got sent the books by the author, and I was like, well, I think I gotta read this. Anyway, so fun stuff.
Seems some of the crowd also know it. Alright, that was fun. But it's the end of our scripted questions, but of course we'll have our questions answered today. Just will be line up. We're going to be moving on to the audience Q&A. Please line up to the left, my left, or right here. From Mike. Our Mike partner Tony is going to be vetting your questions. Any VA-related questions are okay. So yes, please line up if you have any questions, and we'll get started shortly.
Test. All right.
That was a great question.
Thank you. How's your day?
Do you have any questions, Tony?
How's your day been?
That's been pretty good.
I'm happy to hear that.
Really happy to be here.
Today let's stick to just like voice acting, their experience, like how getting into the industry, any other questions like that in general today?
I mean, we are in university, so we can go to voice acting school.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're going to go ahead with our questions.
Okay, great.
All
Yeah.
right.
I just wanted to ask for your advice on dealing with rejection, especially in a creative field.
Yeah. I can start this. I learned this from an acting teacher a while ago, and this has stuck with me. The game here is about selection and not rejection. Every person that you're submitting your art to, they want you to win. And so if you're not hearing back from them, it's not a no, it's a not now. And so that just gives you an opportunity to go back and work on your craft even more. And sometimes it's not a fit, and also that tells you something, right? That tells you, okay, I need to go, they want me to go left, that doesn't feel good, I'm gonna go right. Or vice versa. But especially in this world now where there's like worldwide competition and there's so many more people going out for one role versus like even 13, 12 years ago when I started, just keep telling yourself, it's not, if it's not today, it's not a no, it's a not now. Bryce Dallas Howard, who was in Jurassic Park, she is the granddaughter of actors. When she told her grandmother she wanted to be an actor, her grandmother said, okay, count to 23. 23 auditions, then you book one. And that was for on-camera acting in like the 90s or whatever. That number is probably higher. I think for voice actors, it might be count to 97, and then you book one. Right? Your time is coming. I believe in you.
I will add that, so a lot of voice actors wear a lot of hats, we do a lot of things, and I've had very cool opportunities to do, I've directed, I've done production, I've cast for things, and seeing the other side of it, there are so many talented actors. And being in a position where you're making a choice of like, out of all of these incredible auditions I've gotten, you just have to pick one actor. I think put into perspective for me, it's not personal. It might have nothing to do with your qualities as an actor and your skill level. Sometimes it can be as simple as you sound a little too much like this other actor we've already cast.
Right.
And so you have no idea what's going on in the decision-making process. All you can do and all you can control is what you submit. You feel good about the auditions you're submitting, or in any, in any part of this industry or in any kind of art, if you feel good about what you're making, that's the most important thing in it today.
Yeah, thank you both so much.
It's a pleasure.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you guys for taking the time to come out here.
Thank you for being here.
You look wonderful.
I
Thank
know.
you. I wanted to ask, out of all like the animated roles you've played before, which character do you relate the most to, and what's the reason why?
What was the second part of that question?
What's the reason why?
particular, I love working on the show Tresse because it was the first anime produced for an international audience that featured a story about Filipino culture. So it's Filipino like horror and ghost stories. And so all of the characters I got to play meant something because they were all Filipino. They looked like me. They came from my culture. They lip pointed and, ate lumpia and did all of the things. And so those, even though I will never play, two half-demon children, like I'm not half-demon, maybe, that I know of. I will never, have magical powers, sadly. That because of the cultural connection, that one means a lot.
For me, there is this show that is underrated. Everyone should watch it. This show called Heavenly Delusion that I was in, and I played one of the main characters in that who went through a real journey over the course of the show. And part of that was exploring their gender identity, and this character, there are some things that are not relatable for me, a lot of sci-fi elements that just don't exist in this world. However, I think like the core of that character and a lot of the sort of self-exploration and like challenges that they faced were something that I felt went really close to my heart and experiences I've gone through. And so I loved playing that character. I struggled playing that character. I had just an emotional journey playing that character, and I think they will always stay with me. So this character is called Heavenly Delusion. Go watch it. It's great.
Where can I watch it on?
Disney Plus / Hulu. It gets moved around, so one of those two.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, like, I forgot my question.
You got this. You're great.
That's so mean.
If you want me to have somebody else go first, if you want to think about it.
Yeah, I have like a little stage fright, so.
Take a deep breath. You're doing great.
So have you ever had like a character that you played or voice acted who you like just like it was very interesting to put yourself in their shoes kind of? And then how has that experience, or how have you lived with that experience?
So many. I will tell you a weird one. Very early in my voice acting days, I did a lot of dubbing. So I've probably dubbed over 1,000 episodes of telenovelas that will never be heard in the United States. But I was dubbing a character who, she was having an affair with a married man, and she tried to unalive somebody he was close with. And then while she was in the hospital because she had been beat up in the prison that she went to, she also tried to attack somebody else. Like, I will never have her life point of view ever. Like, I don't relate to any of it, but man, what a fascinating psychological study to like try and be in that person's brain of like, how did you, and how does this, and all she was missing was an evil twin. Like, in all of the tropes of telenovelas, like, that's really all she was missing. She had done everything else.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I think, what is the craziest thing I'm probably blanking on, and there's probably something crazier, but I did play a Yakuza boss.
Okay, that's rad.
That was pretty cool. She was ice cold and she was awesome. But I'm trying to think. Ooh, that's a good question because I just think we get bombarded with like the craziest characters day to day.
Yeah.
So and putting yourself in anyone's shoes, even if it's like a schoolgirl, there's always something you can find where you're like, oh, this is new and different, something I've never experienced before. It's just cool.
Yeah, that's really cool about voice acting, like acting in general. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hello.
My question is a little bit similar, but what are some like emotional highlights in your booth? Like, were there any lines, characters, or just story beats that you really felt like resonated with you on an emotional level, or it was like playing, moving?
I can't think of any specifics, but I definitely know there have been certain sessions where, like, the emotional journey they take me on, like, I feel it afterwards, like I have a little bit of an emotional hangover. And other times where I'm just so freaking pleased with how much I left on in the booth that I like didn't, I left it all on the mic, and then I come back into my car and I'm like, yeah, I did this thing. I'm super proud of myself right now. Like, I think, both of those are both valid, and I can't think of like specific times. I just know that like there are those moments, and you just have to treasure them and file them away in your journal or your calendar. Like, okay, I did this thing.
I also can't think of anything specific, but like when my character, I guess wins is the wrong word, but like whenever my character is able to like overcome a hurdle or like have some victory in their like storyline, I feel that. And so that there's somewhere, you take that with you and like, yeah. The less fun stuff you try to dump, but like when you get that like euphoria from like,
Right? They did good.
living vicariously
Yeah.
in character just a little bit, it's super good.
That's so cool. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi. So my question is like, I know with a lot of anime you have JP dub comes first and then the EN dub comes after. So I'm curious, like, do the directors, do they want you to look at the JP dub and take inspiration from it, or like, do they want you to go in a different direction? Because we've seen that in like, I've seen characters that have completely different and cool like interpretations in both JP and EN, but sometimes they also follow the same line of like direction, I think. So I'm curious, like, what is it typical like for for you to like look at the JP dub, or is it like something that is you're usually just like looking at instructions that are just close to that?
I would say it depends. Well, you always see the Japanese when you're dubbing a show. They always preview just because you also have to match the lip lock, so you need to know like how long is the line. Do they like pause for like a half a second?
What is their emotional point of view?
Right. So you do hear what they sound like, but the decision of like, well, how close to the Japanese voice print do we want to make this character, or how, do we want to go bigger on this line than they do the Japanese, or smaller on this line, whatever it might be. That's the decision you make with the director or client.
Alright, thank you so much.
Hi, I wanted to ask about maybe a bit on a specific role. What was it like going from a rather minor role in the Pokemon anime, then progressing to become the main character of the new show?
So weird. So unexpected. I was like I said, I was like, okay, goal accomplished, dream,
Check that box.
Exactly. I was like, this is amazing, my bucket list moment. I, in a million years, didn't think that would ever evolve into playing such a large role in this new series. I don't think any of us expected what happened with Ash, for there to be such a significant change in the
At
first
all.
place.
Yeah.
And so, totally out of left field, and it's been a year and I'm still sort of processing, so it's just been incredible.
Hello, this is a more technical question, but since it's more like there's more stability like with auditions online and stuff like that compared to before COVID, how did you guys adapt to that? Like, do you guys already have like fully built like studios in your homes? Back
Are you asking for the difference between voiceover before and after COVID?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
How was the transition from like going into the studio?
Honestly, there wasn't that much of a difference. A lot of us, voice actors, unlike on-camera actors, we were already auditioning from home. So most of us had something that was, soundproof enough to do an audition from. And then during the pandemic, we were able to, we would upgrade so that we could be soundproof enough that we could do work. After they started opening up studios again, obviously studios pay a lot of rent, for those facilities. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment and people and all of that other stuff that they have to justify. So, definitely now the onus is a little more to go back into the studios. and record versus working remotely, but there's still a place for both remote and in-person work for voice actors. What I would say is that the pandemic, it almost forced the on-camera folks to learn what we had to do. And so now the onus is on an on-camera actor to have a setup to do a self-tape from home and be able to get on a Zoom call and do a callback and do all of these things that they never ever had to do before. And now they have to do that in order to just kind of clear that first hurdle of booking a gig.
I will say, I started during the pandemic, and so it was really, and I only moved to LA last year, and so it has been a really interesting transition personally from, like, half my projects on IMDb, stuff that's been released, I recorded at home, probably in my closet. And so now I work in a studio, and you usually have to split it, like, you can do some jobs remote, but yeah, a lot of folks are going back in the studio and wanting to do from the studio. If you're just starting out, I think you still absolutely have a place to be able to find opportunities remotely if you're not at these like big central hubs of voice acting. It's a different atmosphere than it was 4 years ago when I started, but it's absolutely still accessible to some extent. And so if you're interested in voice acting, there's so many great ways to learn more about it and find opportunities online.
Sort of talking on that, would you say you prefer working more in those big fancy studios or like the comfort of your home?
Exactly, you don't have to self-engineer.
That. Absolutely that. I don't love having to be in traffic.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'd like to ask if you have any role models inside or outside the industry?
So many.
So many.
Like, right? I mean, God, like you can go back old school, June Foray. Bob Bergman was like a huge inspiration for me. All of the Animaniac voices. Old school Looney Tunes, every freaking Disney princess. My sister and I used to fight over the DVDs, like who got to watch them. So all of those actors who came before me, they laid a path, and then especially, at least personally, all of the women of color and the humans of color who were brave enough to go out there and like put themselves on camera, on tape, on voice, to start opening up those doors that were not open to me at the time. Like they paved the way. They're my heroes.
I don't think I can follow that up any better because I completely there are so many sources of inspiration I can think of, but at the same time, yeah, people who have like laid a path for us to now be able to push the needle further where we're at, incredible. And so really grateful for that.
The fact that they exist is the reason why neither of us, why we have peers and why neither of us are being asked to go in there into the booth and like speak broken English, So, thank you, trailblazers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of both of your work. Like, voice acting is just such a beautiful art. I think that's not really well appreciated, but my question is, and I know it differs from job to job, but how long a process is it usually from when you book a role all the way till you actually get to see it on screen?
It depends so much.
So much. That's the theme of our talk today, by the way. It's called It Depends.
I will say something like, if you see us in dubbed roles, I might have recorded that honestly a week ago, and now it's out. But sometimes, like especially for Western animation, original animation, we do the voices, and then they have to animate everything. You could have recorded something 3-4 years ago, and it's coming out now.
Yeah. Definitely that. I did a commercial, and then 2 days later it was on the air. So sometimes turnaround time is very quick, but for animation and especially for games, that development timeline is really, really long because it's not just us. We're a teeny tiny piece in a massive, massive puzzle. And so you have all of the writers, all of the devs, all of the QA, all of the executives who also have to like put their stink on everything. So you have so many people in that room. It's basically like a room like this, fill it up, multiply it by 2, and now you all have to agree on something.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Alright, that was our last question. I think then we're gonna be done for today, unless you have something, Tony? Do you have a question? I see you over there.
I don't, but.
Perfect. Alright, well, I think that's all the time we have for today then.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you everyone for coming, and we wanted to tell you all to look forward to the raffle that's happening at 3:30 back in the main event area, which is perfect. Gives you like 10 minutes to head back over there and prepare for that. But thank you all for coming today, and it was lovely having you two here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our MCs. Thank you so much.